Now, earlier in the 20th century, our fathers and grandfathers were told that they fought. They fought against Germany, they fought against fascism, they fought against Imperial Germany in the First War between 1914 and 18. You may have seen some of the very elderly veterans who are basically dying now. 93, 89, 96, 109, 106, 104. As these men went over the top in 1914-18, in Flanders Fields, at the Somme, at Passchendaele, at Ypres and elsewhere, when men got out of their tanks and fried an egg on the side of it in the North African desert in the Second War, were they fighting for tolerance and inclusion? Were they fighting for Mr. Phillips to impose laws upon them here in the north of England and elsewhere to describe what they can say, even in private, even in a text message between friends, even in an office in the public or in the private sector? No, they weren't fighting for tolerance and inclusion. They were fighting for glory. They were fighting for this country. They were fighting for England and Britain. They were fighting for what their old rulers had told them about what the future would be like if they lost. They were fighting for a degree of racial and ethnic pride that was unstated because the whole English conspectus was you didn't really go on about that because it was accepted as a norm to begin with, and therefore you didn't need to illustrate it too much because it was a given before you even started. They were fighting for the flags that were behind them. Many of them didn't know what was coming and certainly didn't know that the Great War was a form of mechanised death in which we would lose 800,000 men. 800,000! And look around this country now. What did they die for? And many more maimed and injured on top of that core 800,000. And that's just in the First War. What did they die for? Did they die for a multicultural Britain? Did they die for a multi-ethnic Britain? Did they die for a politically correct Britain? Did they die for 200,000 abortions a year? Did they die for the absence of the death penalty? Did they die for liberal left censorship that denies the rights even of a private conversation up to a certain perspective? Did they die for the right of men to marry each other and adopt children? Did they die for all of these things? Or did they actually fight for something different? I hazard the guess that they actually fought for a society that we had a proportion of, but which has now been dipped down to such a degree that even to mention it is incorrect, is transgressive, is anti-system, is mentally criminal, or treated largely as such.